1. e4, Robert James Fischer opens with the king's pawn, seeking a direct and aggressive confrontation, a hallmark of his uncompromising style and desire for the initiative. 1. c5, the legendary Miguel Najdorf, playing against his own creation, responds with the Sicilian defense, setting the stage for a dramatic and theoretically crucial battle. 2. nf3, Fischer continues with the open Sicilian, the most ambitious and challenging approach, aiming to seize an immediate initiative in the center of the board. 2. d6, a solid and principled move. Najdorf reinforces his central foothold and prepares the ground for his eponymous Najdorf variation, one of the most respected and complex systems in chess. 3. d4, the thematic central strike. Fischer blasts open the position, creating the sharp, unbalanced struggle that defines the Sicilian defense and where he feels most at home. 3. cxd4, the obligatory exchange. Najdorf cedes control of the center temporarily in exchange for a long-term structural advantage with his central pawn majority and open c-file for his rook. For nxd4, the white knight occupies its ideal central post on d4. From this commanding square, it will exert a powerful influence and serve as the pivot for white's strategic operations. For nf6, Najdorf develops his knight with a tempo, attacking the undefended e4 pawn. This forces white's hand and allows black to gain valuable time for his own development. 5. nc3, the logical and most common developing move. Fischer brings another knight into the game, reinforces his control of the center, and prepares for the main theoretical battle. 5. 6. The signature move of the Najdorf variation. This subtle pawn move prevents white's knights from jumping to b5 and prepares a dangerous queenside expansion with b5. 6. h3, the Adams attack. Fischer chooses a very aggressive and dangerous system, preparing to launch a pawn storm with g4 to challenge black on the kingside and fight for space. 6. b5, Najdorf responds with the typical queenside expansion, starting his own counterattack. The game immediately becomes a thrilling, no-holds-barred race to checkmate the enemy king. 7. nd5, a very sharp and unusual move from Fischer, deviating from the more standard g4. He immediately creates tactical complications, putting a knight on a provocative central square as a surprise weapon. 7. bb7, Najdorf develops his bishop to the long diagonal, a classic Najdorf idea, putting pressure on white's center and continuing with his own strategic plan. 8. nxf6+, a deep strategic decision. Fischer trades his active knight to inflict permanent damage on black's pawn structure, creating ugly double f-pawns. 8. gxf6, the forced recapture. The g-file is now open for black's rook, offering counterplay, but the kingside pawn structure is permanently weakened, a classic double-edged position. 9. se4, Fischer immediately strikes back on the queenside and in the center, trying to open lines for his pieces to exploit the weaknesses around the black king. 9. bxc4, Najdorf captures, opening the b-file for his rook and continuing the process of opening lines for both sides' attacking forces. 10. bxc4, the bishop recaptures and takes up a powerful post, controlling key diagonals and preparing to join the attack against the weakened black kingside. 10. bs4, the game explodes. Najdorf captures the central e4 pawn, but this brings his bishop into a potentially vulnerable position and opens the crucial e-file for Fischer's rook. 11. Fischer calmly castles, getting his king to safety and bringing his rook into the game before launching his decisive and beautifully calculated attack. 11. d5, Najdorf strikes in the center, trying to create space and block the lines for white's pieces. A necessary move, but it further opens the position for Fischer's better developed army. 12. 1 rupee, the rook immediately seizes the open e-file, putting immense pressure on the black bishop and the entire black position. Fischer's pieces are springing to life with incredible speed. 12. e5, a very committal move from Najdorf, trying to create a central blockade. However, this also creates weaknesses and walks directly into Fischer's stunning tactical ideas. 13. qa4+, a powerful queen check. Fischer prevents black from castling and creates immediate tactical problems. The black king is now permanently stuck in the center of the board. 13. nd7, the only move, but it's a passive one that tangles black's pieces. The king is a sitting duck, and black's defensive task is becoming immense. 14. Rex 4, the Thunderbolt. An absolutely stunning and brilliant exchange sacrifice. Fischer gives up his rook for the bishop to completely shatter black's central control and rip open lines against the hopelessly exposed king. 14. Dex 4, the forced recapture. Najorf is now up the exchange, but his king is naked in the center, and white's pieces are poised for a killer attack. 15. In f5, the knight leaps to its dream square. From f5, it puts unbearable pressure on the black king, coordinates perfectly with the queen, and signals the beginning of the end. 15. bc5, Najorf desperately tries to develop his last piece and create some sort of defensive barrier or counterthreat, but he is helpless against the coming storm. 16. ing7+, the attack continues with relentless force. This knight check drives the black king even further into the open, into a deadly mating net from which there is no escape. 16. co7, the king is forced to a horrible square. It's a hunted animal in the center of the board, completely at the mercy of white's beautifully coordinated attacking pieces. 17. nf5+, Fischer repeats the position once to gain time on the clock, a common technique in complex attacking positions. He knows the win is there and is simply being precise. 17. q8, the black king is forced back and forth, a tragic dance that can only lead to its doom. There are no safe squares. 18. b3, a calm and deadly move. Fischer brings his final piece into the attack, cutting off the king's escape routes and preparing the final, decisive blow. 18. b3, Najorf is forced to trade, but this removes a key defender and brings Fischer's pawn to e3, further cementing his complete control over the key central squares. 19. fex3, the recapture creates a powerful pawn duel for white in the center, and the black king is still fatally exposed and helpless. 19. qb6, Najorf tries to create a blockade with his queen, his last active piece, but it is a lonely warrior fighting a lost battle against a perfectly coordinated white army. 20. rd1, the final piece joins the party. The rook comes to the d-file with devastating effect, and Fischer's control over the position is now absolute and overwhelming. 20. ra7, Najorf tries to create a defensive line with his rook, a desperate but futile gesture against the full might of Fischer's attacking army. 21. rd6, a brilliant rook lift. Fischer brings his rook up to the 6th rank, creating unstoppable threats and completely paralyzing black's position. 21. qd8, the black queen is forced into a pitifully passive defensive role, a clear sign of the complete bankruptcy of black's position and the genius of Fischer's attack. 22. qb3, the queen swings to the b-file, creating new and deadly threats against the black king and weak pawns. The coordination of white's pieces is a symphony of destruction. 22. qc7, Najorf's queen is forced to shuffle, desperately trying to hold the crumbling position together, but the end is now very near. 23. bxf7+, the decisive blow. A brilliant bishop sacrifice that shatters the last remnants of the black king's defense and initiates a forced checkmating sequence. 23. kd8, the king is forced to d8, where it will be subjected to the final, brutal assault from white's queen and rook. There is no escape. 24. b6, the elegant and crushing final move. The bishop lands on e6, creating an unstoppable mating threat and demonstrating complete domination. Seeing no defense, Miguel Najorf resigns.